Welcome to today's devotional message, brought to you by Trusting God Always. You prayed, you fasted, you waited, and still, silence. Maybe this message is the sign you didn't know you needed. If these words meet you right where you are, like, share, and subscribe. It helps us reach more souls who need God's comfort. Comment below with your favorite Bible promise, or the one you're still holding on to in the waiting. Let's begin, and let His Word breathe new life into yours. You sit by the window, the world outside moving on, bustling with life and forward motion, while your world feels frozen in place, locked in a static moment. You've prayed until your voice felt hoarse, the words barely more than whispers against the quiet darkness of your room. You've poured out your heart, every fear, every hope, every raw emotion, until you thought there was nothing left to give. Yet, the answer hasn't come. The door you've been knocking on remains stubbornly shut. The situation you've pleaded for change in stands rigid and unchanged. The breakthrough you desperately need, the light you long for, feels nowhere in sight, as if hidden beyond an impenetrable veil. The silence from heaven in this waiting feels less like the peaceful quiet of God's presence and more like a deafening absence. Doubt, like a cold, unwelcome guest, begins to settle into the empty chair across from you, its presence heavy and unsettling. It whispers insidious questions. You wonder if your faith is simply too small, a tiny mustard seed that refuses to grow in this barren landscape. You question if you missed a crucial sign, a subtle nudge from God that you were too blind or deaf to perceive. Or worse, the chilling thought creeps in. What if God simply isn't hearing you amidst the noise of a million other prayers? What if your plea is lost in the divine inbox, unopened and unread? The dream you held close, the promise you thought you heard whispered on the wind of the Spirit, now feels fragile, delicate, perhaps even foolish in the harsh light of reality. Was it just your own hopeful imagination? The waiting is not just an inconvenience. It is a heavy cloak, wrapping you in suffocating layers of uncertainty and isolation. You look out and see others receiving their answers, their lives unfolding like a beautiful flowing river, navigating challenges and reaching new shores. Their progress sharpens the edges of your own longing, making your stagnation feel even more profound. You feel a flicker of shame for even questioning, for allowing doubt to knock on the door of your heart, quickly followed by the raw, undeniable honesty of your soul. Doesn't God know how hard this is? Doesn't He see the ache in your chest, the effort you've invested in simply showing up, in holding on to hope? Doesn't He see the years you've invested not just in praying, but in the quiet, arduous work of simply trusting Him when nothing makes sense? This isn't mere impatience, born of a desire for instant gratification. It's a soul-deep weariness, a depletion that whispers the most painful question of all. Has God forgotten me? If you've ever sat in that quiet space, by that window, feeling the crushing weight of unanswered prayers and the perplexing, heavy silence of God's seemingly delayed timing, if you've wrestled with the cold guest of doubt and felt the raw honesty of a heart that simply asks, "Do you see me?" this message is for you. It's not about pretending to have perfect, unwavering faith that never questions or feels weary. It's about the radical, counterintuitive truth that sometimes the heaviest silence can hold the quietest, most profound truth about His presence. It's about finding Him not after the wait is over, but right here, in the middle of the stillness, in the heart of the wilderness season. His greatest work is often forged in the hidden, silent places. You check the calendar again, a phantom weight settling in your chest. The world outside spins faster than ever. Instant downloads, same-day delivery, answers just a click away. Your own rhythm, trained by this culture of speed, expects results now. You had a plan, a timeline carefully laid out in your mind, maybe even on paper. You prayed over it, sought counsel, took steps you felt were guided. By now, things were supposed to look different. The promise was meant to manifest. The door should have opened. The shift should have happened. But here you are, standing still while the clock ticks mockingly. Or perhaps simply not ticking in the way you expected. It's the jarring clash between your urgent need for progress and God's unhurried pace. You envision a destination, ready to sprint towards it, yet feel anchored in a season of waiting that stretches longer than your patience. This tension is real. It gnaws at your peace. Did you misunderstand? Did you miss a sign? Did God forget? He didn't forget. His heart is not indifferent to your longing, but his calendar operates on dimensions beyond your anxious deadlines. You wait at the foot of the mountain, ready to climb with all your might, but he whispers, "Wait. I am not delaying. I am preparing. I am preparing the path you cannot see, clearing obstacles you aren't aware of. And perhaps more importantly, I am preparing you for the journey ahead, strengthening muscles you don't yet know you need." This isn't a cosmic holdup due to inefficiency. It's a deliberate process unfolding according to a perfect, though often hidden, selected, divine architecture. This is where Isaiah 55 verse 9 echoes in the quiet spaces of your soul. "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord." His perspective spans eternity. Yours is bounded by the visible horizon. His later might be your never, if only your immediate vision were the guide. His slow is often the necessary unfolding of wisdom, grace, and sovereignty that prevents future stumbles or ensures deeper roots. The frustration you feel is the friction between your human desire for immediate resolution and God's patient, unhurried work of deeper transformation within you. It's the paradox of finding power not in the speed of your steps, but in the stillness of surrender. Think back on times you tried to rush God's hand, perhaps forcing a door open, leaping ahead of clear direction, or manipulating circumstances to fit your preferred timeline. Did it bring lasting peace, or did it ultimately lead to more frustration, anxiety, or unintended consequences? Often, the very things we rush towards end up lacking the fullness, the divine blessing, or the prepared path that only His timing could provide. We confuse God's patience with His absence. We interpret the stillness as silence, when often it's the sound of Him working in the invisible, beneath the surface of your circumstances. The greatest challenge in this season of waiting, this misalignment of timelines, isn't simply enduring the delay. It is actively surrendering your tightly held schedule to His. It is choosing to believe, against the clamor of your impatience and the world's insistence on speed, that His timing is not just good, not just perfect, but essential for the fullness of what He intends to do in your life and through your circumstances. It's recognizing that perhaps the delay is the very path designed to build the character, deepen the faith, and cultivate the trust required for the blessing or breakthrough when it finally arrives. This surrender is not passive resignation. It is active trust. It is tending the small patch of ground God has given you today, even as you wait for the larger harvest you envisioned. It is finding contentment and purpose in the present moment, trusting that God is actively writing your story, even in the chapters that feel slow and uneventful. It's leaning into the promise that He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion, on His schedule, for His glory and for your ultimate good. It requires the faith of a farmer who plants seeds in hidden soil and trusts the sun and rain will come in their season, even when the field looks empty. It calls you to trust the author, even when you cannot see the next page, knowing his narrative arc is far grander than your limited view. And sometimes the greatest miracles are forged not in the sudden acceleration, but in the profound, unhurried work of his faithfulness in the waiting. She sits in the silence, the calendar pages blurred in her mind, each sunrise another reminder that the thing she prays for has not yet arrived. The wind taps the window pane, a quiet rhythm against the stillness, perhaps like God's whisper waiting for her to listen deeply to the quiet, the in-between. You know this feeling, the tension in your chest, the unspoken question hanging in the air. How long, O Lord? You've presented your heartfelt plea, your desperate need, perhaps even a vision planted by God Himself. And yet, the ground remains hard, the seed unseen. Look at creation. Go outside, even if just in your mind's eye. Nothing happens instantly. The mightiest oak tree, that towering emblem of strength and longevity, doesn't burst forth overnight. It begins as a tiny, unassuming acorn dropped into the earth. It undergoes a hidden process, rooting itself deeply, strengthening its structure in the dark, silent soil. Decades pass, even centuries, before it reaches its full, majestic stature. It waits through countless winters, endures storms, basks in summers, each season contributing to its eventual glory. Winter doesn't rush headlong into spring. It has its necessary season of dormancy, of stripping back, of cold that hardens the roots and prepares the soil for new growth. Seeds don't sprout the moment they hit the earth, kissed by the sun and watered by the rain. They undergo a hidden process of germination, a mysterious work of breaking open and reaching out in the dark earth before they ever pierce the surface. These are not random occurrences. They are governed by divine design, by laws of nature set in motion by a deliberate creator. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 lays it out for us, a profound truth that undergirds the rhythm of existence. For everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven. A time to be born, and a time to die. A time to plant, and a time to pluck up what is planted. A time to weep, and a time to laugh. God is the God of seasons and cycles. He works according to natural and spiritual laws we can barely grasp in their entirety, but whose fingerprints are everywhere. You yearn for the harvest, the manifestation, the breakthrough you've been praying for, but perhaps He is still in the season of planting the right seeds, or even the season of silent, hidden growth beneath the surface where the most critical work is being done. Work unseen, yet vital. Your frustration often stems from wanting to skip a necessary season. You look at the vibrant butterfly soaring through the air, free and beautiful, and you desperately want that freedom, that visible transformation, now. But you're still in the chrysalis phase, the uncomfortable, confined space where the real metamorphosis is happening, invisible to the outside world. You hold the promise of a magnificent vision God has given you, but you want the fully formed building, the grand structure right now. You forget you're still in the blueprint stage, meticulously planning, gathering resources, laying a hidden foundation that must be strong before anything visible can rise. This impatience, this desire to fast forward through the discomfort or the waiting, is a clash with the divine rhythm. Understand that God's timing respects process. He is not just interested in the destination, the harvest, the butterfly, the completed building. He is profoundly interested in the journey through each season. The waiting is not empty time. It is formative time. The silence is not proof of his absence. It is often the quiet workspace where he is strengthening roots, developing character, refining faith. What might God be cultivating in you during this particular season of waiting, this season of quiet, perhaps even struggle? What resilience is being forged in the cold of winter? What depth is being created in the dark earth of uncertainty? He's not asking you to magically produce the harvest today. He's asking you to trust him in the planting, in the waiting, in the silent growth. This is where the gentle paradox lies. Sometimes the greatest movement happens in the stillness. Sometimes the strongest growth occurs hidden from view, in the dark. Sometimes we find purpose not after the pause ends, but within the pause itself. Ask him to show you the purpose within the pause, not just the purpose after it. What lesson is only available in this season? What part of your character is being shaped by this waiting? Trust that the God who orchestrates the grand cycles of the universe, who works through the patient process of an acorn becoming an oak, is working just as deliberately, just as patiently, just as purposefully in your life, in this very season you are in. You remember the Israelites in the wilderness. God delivered them dramatically from Egypt, parting the Red Sea, an undeniable miracle witnessed by thousands. Yet their journey to the Promised Land, which could have taken weeks, stretched into 40 long years. You hear that story, and maybe you wonder why God would delay his promise so significantly after such a powerful rescue. The desert wasn't just a detour on the map. It was a classroom etched into the landscape of their souls. It was a place where God meticulously taught them dependence, revealing the hidden corners of their hearts they didn't even know existed, testing their faith not to break them, but to make them strong. He was forging them into a people ready for the promises he had waiting on the other side. Deuteronomy 8:2-3. You might feel like you're wandering in your own desert right now, a dry, barren place of waiting that stretches endlessly before you. It feels stripped of familiar comforts, devoid of clear direction, maybe even unproductive or punitive. You look around for signs of life, for the oasis you thought should be there by now, and find only sand and silence. But perhaps this desert, this unexpected barrenness, is precisely where God wants to meet you in a way he couldn't in the fertile plains of busyness or the well-watered gardens of control you once inhabited. It's in the emptiness of the desert, where your own resources run dry, that your reliance is forced to shift from the pharaohs of your fears or the strength of your own two hands towards the daily manna, the rock that provides water when there is none, the cloud by day and fire by night that signify his presence. It's here, in the profound silence of being stripped bare, that they learned to discern his voice above the wind. What lessons is God gently, persistently trying to teach you in the barrenness of your waiting? Don't despise the desert. Don't resent the journey through the dust. It might be the very place where your faith is not just tested, but genuinely strengthened, where your dependence on Him becomes not a last resort, but an absolute necessity, and where you learn the profound, life-altering lesson that He is enough, abundantly, beautifully, absolutely enough, even when everything else is stripped away. Sometimes you have to be emptied before you can truly be filled by Him. He is the only well in the wilderness that never runs dry. You sit in the silence, wondering if your prayer was even heard. The wind taps the window, like God's whisper waiting for your stillness. The calendar pages turn, each flipped day a quiet testament to a hope deferred, a promise that feels increasingly distant. You've held on to it, prayed over it, maybe even spoken it aloud to trusted friends, but the landscape of your life remains unchanged, the barren ground refusing to yield the harvest you were assured was coming. The doubt is a subtle poison, whispering that perhaps you misunderstood, perhaps God forgot, perhaps He simply doesn't work that way for you. This waiting, this interminable pause between the promise given and the fulfillment seen, is not a sign of failure. It is, perhaps, the crucible where faith is most profoundly forged. Look at Abraham, the father of nations, a man whose life story is synonymous with faith. God didn't just give him a promise. He gave him a cosmic assurance under the vast canopy of a starlit sky. Genesis 15, verses 5 to 6. "Look up," God said. "Can you count the stars? So shall your offspring be." An incredible vision, countless descendants, a great nation. The natural world screamed the opposite of God's decree. It became humanly impossible. In their anxiety, they even tried to lend God a hand, resulting in Ishmael, a child born of human effort and a source of conflict that echoes through history. Yet, God's promise remained. And finally, when all human possibility had withered, when both Abraham and Sarah were well past the years of bearing children, when the situation was utterly, undeniably dependent only on divine intervention, Isaac, the child of promise, was born. Genesis 21, 1 through 3. Abraham had to wait not just years, but a significant portion of his life for the foundational promise to begin to manifest. His faith wasn't perfected in the moment he first believed. It was forged in the long, silent years that followed, in the wilderness of waiting. He learned to trust God's character and timing, even when circumstances screamed the opposite, when the very air felt thick with impossibility. The strength wasn't in rushing forward, but in standing still in trust. His story reminds you that God's promises often unfold over a lifetime, not overnight. Your waiting might feel interminable, a valley darker and longer than you anticipated, but it is not unprecedented in the life of faith. The delay isn't a denial, it's a divine refining. What specific promise are you holding on to today? Look at Abraham's journey and remember that faithfulness during the delay is not a passive act, but an active posture of trust, part of the very process of receiving the promise. He didn't see the end, but he trusted the author, and that was enough. You watch the horizon, waiting for the dawn of a promise, but the sky holds only the deep, unchanging night. You've held on to a word, a vision, a sense of purpose God seemed to breathe into your soul. Yet your path today feels like it's spiraling away from that destiny, not toward it. You sit in your own kind of pit, surrounded by the dusty walls of disappointment and the chains of circumstances you never chose. Consider Joseph, A young boy, bright-eyed, dreamt of sheaves bowing down, of stars and sun and moon paying homage. A clear vision of leadership, of ruling. But the immediate landscape? A bitter pit dug by brothers, the cold embrace of slavery in a foreign land, the unjust accusation leading to the forgotten darkness of a prison cell. 13 long years stretched between the vivid dream and its first glimmer of fulfillment. 13 years of betrayal slicing deep, of injustice burning hot, of pleas whispered into the stone walls of a dungeon, seemingly unheard by men, maybe even by God. Every turn felt like a cruel twist, taking him further from the palace steps, deeper into the wilderness of suffering. He was a royal dreamer thrust into the lowliest of valleys. But here is the quiet truth. God's hand was sovereign over every detail. The pit didn't bury the dream. It was the first painful step on a hidden path. In Potiphar's house, tending to earthly affairs, he wasn't just a slave. He was learning management, household governance, faithfulness with another's possessions. In the damp confines of prison, surrounded by broken lives and forgotten souls, he wasn't just a prisoner. He was learning leadership, discernment, developing his gift of interpretation, the very key God would later use to unlock his cell and elevate him. His waiting wasn't wasted time. It was divine preparation. God was meticulously shaping his character like clay on a potter's wheel, stripping away youthful arrogance, refining his resilience, honing his leadership skills, not in comfort, but in conflict. He was being positioned, not by human hands or political favor, but by God's precise timing, for the exact moment of breakthrough. Maybe you look at your circumstances and feel that same stark contrast. The dream God gave you feels miles away from your current reality, your pit, your prison, your season of being forgotten. You wonder how this isolation, this struggle, this lack of progress could possibly align with the abundant promise you carry. But what if this season, this very pit, is God's chosen training ground? What if He is using the pressure to equip you, the waiting to refine you, the setbacks to position you exactly where you need to be for the next step He has planned? The lessons learned in the pit, the humility forged in waiting, the resilience built in forgotten places. These are often the essential building blocks for leading, for serving, for living out the promise in the palace. Don't discount the difficult path. Trust that God is actively working, sovereignly orchestrating, even in the deepest setbacks. He is preparing you, even when it feels like you are only waiting. The soil feels hard beneath your feet. You look around, scanning the horizon for any sign of movement, any hint of bloom, any tangible evidence that things are changing, that your prayers are being answered, that the season of waiting holds purpose. You've done all you know to do. You've watered the ground with tears. You've exposed your heart to the sun. You've stood firm against the winds of doubt. And yet, nothing seems to break the surface. It feels stagnant, unproductive, frustratingly still. This waiting isn't a gentle pause. It's a tension, a pressure that sits heavy in your chest. You wonder if you're doing something wrong, if God has forgotten the seeds you've planted, if this quiet, unseen season is just wasted time. Think of the towering tree, reaching towards the sky, its branches filled with leaves, providing shade, bearing fruit. Its visible majesty is undeniable, but its power, its resilience, its very life source isn't in what you see above ground today. Its true strength lies in the silent, unseen work happening far below the surface. Its roots, tenacious and determined, are digging deep into the darkness, navigating rocks, seeking moisture, anchoring the massive structure against the storms that will inevitably come. This root work is especially intense in the tree's formative years, or when the environment becomes hostile, during periods of drought, or when the soil is challenging. The deepest, strongest roots don't grow in easy, shallow earth. They are forged in struggle, pushed down by pressure, driven by the instinct for survival and future flourishing. Your current season of waiting often feels like that unproductive, quiet phase. You see no visible height added, no leaves unfurling overnight, no fruit appearing on barren branches. You feel stuck, perhaps even failing, because the metrics you use for growth are all above ground. But God, the master gardener, might be entirely focused on your roots. He knows what's coming: the seasons of rapid expansion, the sudden storms, the droughts that test everything. And He knows that without a deep, unshakable foundation in Him, any outward growth, no matter how impressive, will be fragile. This hidden work in the darkness is not a delay. It is divine preparation. It is crucial. It is where character is forged, resilience is built, dependence on His unseen provision becomes instinctual, and your foundation in Him is laid upon bedrock. The very strain you feel from this period of waiting, the tension that makes your soul ache for movement and visibility, is often precisely what drives your roots deeper into the rich soil of God's faithfulness. It forces you to stop relying on what you can see or control and start trusting the One who works in ways you cannot perceive. It's easy to trust when you see fruit. It is transformative to trust when you only feel the struggle below the surface. This season isn't about the lack of visible progress. It's about the necessary, vital work happening where no one can applaud or even observe. It's in the dark that roots truly take hold. What if this waiting is less about what you are waiting for and infinitely more about who you are becoming while you wait? God is building your foundation in the quiet, unseen places of your life, equipping you for the future by strengthening you in the present darkness. Trust the unseen work. Trust the gardener who knows exactly why He is tending to your roots today. He isn't ignoring you. He is anchoring you. He isn't delaying your growth. He is securing it. Sometimes the greatest growth happens when you see nothing at all. The waiting presses in, heavy and relentless. Each passing day feels like a weight, a silent question echoing in the empty spaces of your hope. You watch others move forward, breakthroughs appearing like sudden springs in a dry land, while your own path seems lost in a desolate wilderness of delay. The frustration builds, sharp and insistent, whispering doubts about God's timing, His care, even His very presence. You feel the urge to force a door open, to carve your own way through the rock, believing action, any action, is better than this painful stillness. But here, in this furnace of waiting, a different work is taking place, a process far more profound than mere passage of time. This waiting is a fire, not of destruction, but of refinement. Like precious metals placed in intense heat to burn away impurities, your character is being tested and strengthened in this furnace of delay. It hurts, yes. The heat is real, the pressure palpable. You long for the cool air of resolution, for the ordeal to end. But God is not a careless spectator to your discomfort. He is the master refiner, with an intentional purpose in every degree of heat, every moment of enduring pressure. Patience isn't a passive sigh. It is the active cultivation of trust and unwavering endurance under fire. It demands a conscious, moment-by-moment choice to lean into the only one who holds the timeline, when every fiber of your being screams to take back control or simply collapse in despair. This refining fire burns away the dross of self-reliance, that brittle armor you wear, convincing yourself you can handle life on your own terms. It melts away the impatience that demands instant gratification and the illusion of control that crumbles under the weight of unanswered prayers. What remains, forged in the heat and hammered into shape by time, is the pure gold of steadfast faith and absolute dependence on God alone. Romans 5, verses 3-5, speaks of this holy alchemy. Suffering produces perseverance, perseverance character, and character hope. This hope, rooted in God's unwavering love and purpose, does not disappoint. It is the unshakable foundation laid only when the superficial is stripped away. Perhaps the fire of waiting is revealing the impurities you didn't even know were there, a deep-seated need for control, a fear that God isn't good unless He acts on your schedule, a reliance on your own strength rather than His sovereign grace. Ask God to use this season to expose these areas, not to condemn, but to purify. Ask Him to teach you the profound, quiet peace that blossoms only in the soil of patient endurance, rooted deep in the certainty of His perfect love and unchanging plan. It feels like breaking, perhaps, but He is only breaking away what is false, leaving behind the true resilient faith meant to endure and shine. You sit in the quiet, where the answers should be echoing, but all you hear is the vast, stretching silence. This waiting place, this season where God seems distant, is fertile ground for doubt. It creeps in, a subtle vapor at first, then a thick fog obscuring the path you thought you saw so clearly. The enemy knows this vulnerability. He sidles up close, his whisper insidious, planting the age-old seeds. Did God really say? Has He forgotten you? He points to your reality, stark and unyielding, and then to the shimmering, seemingly unreachable promise you've clung to for so long. The gap isn't just wide, it feels enormous, an impossible chasm only growing wider with each passing day. An internal storm begins to rage. You wrestle with questions you're almost afraid to voice, even to yourself. They churn in the darkness of your mind. Am I sure I heard God correctly? Maybe this isn't His will for me after all. What if I'm just wasting my time, pouring my faith into something that will never materialize? This internal battle is not unique. It's a shared wilderness for many who wait on God. You are walking a path worn smooth by the faithful who came before you, their cries echoing through the ages in the Psalms, raw, honest expressions of souls wrestling with God's seeming absence, with His apparent slowness. Psalm 13, Psalm 77. But here is a profound, freeing truth. It is okay to voice your doubts to God. He is not intimidated by your honesty. He doesn't shrink back from your questions, your confusion, your wrestling heart. In fact, sometimes articulating the doubt is the very first step to dismantling its power. By bringing it into the light of His presence, you rob it of the festering darkness it thrives in within your mind. Name the fear. Acknowledge the confusion. Speak the questions aloud in the sacred space between you and the one who knows you intimately. Remember this deeply. Faith is not the absence of doubt, but trust in God in the midst of doubt. It is not about suppressing the fear, but about turning towards the light even when the shadows feel overwhelming. Sometimes, the strongest faith is found not in shouting declarations from a mountaintop, but in whispering, "I believe, help my unbelief," from the valley floor. God meets you precisely there, in the honest mess of your struggling heart. What doubts are you struggling with in this season? Take a moment, right now, wherever you are, to bring those specific doubts before God, not as accusations, but as honest, vulnerable expressions of your searching soul. He is listening. He is not judging. He is waiting for you in the stillness, even when the silence whispers loudest. The silence stretches, thick and heavy, pressing in on you. You've prayed the prayer, cast the seed of hope into the soil of God's promise, and now the waiting. Day bleeds into night, weeks into months, and the horizon remains stubbornly unchanged. That's when the whisper comes, subtle at first, then growing louder, suggesting you could step in. You see an opening, a logical path forward, a way to nudge the universe along, to help God fulfill what He promised. It feels right, practical, a stroke of divine human partnership, doesn't it? This is the ancient temptation, the same pull that tugged at Sarah in her barrenness, leading her to offer Hagar to Abraham, trying to force the promised heir into existence through human calculation. It's the same restless urgency that seized the Israelites at the base of Sinai, crafting a golden calf because Moses was taking too long on the mountain, impatiently manufacturing a tangible God when the true God seemed silent. It echoes in Peter's impulsive sword swing in the garden, attempting to defend the Messiah from the very path ordained for him. This impulse to help God often isn't born of malicious intent, but from the raw, exposed nerves of fear, the burning frustration of impatience, or a fundamental lack of trust that God is truly capable, truly willing, and perfectly on time. We look at the vast canvas of His promise, and our own limited perspective screams, "This needs action now. Someone has to do something." And we volunteer ourselves, stepping out of the quiet current of divine timing and into the choppy waters of our own hurried efforts. We try to force open doors God intends to keep closed, manipulate circumstances He means to rearrange differently, or rush processes designed for slow, deep formation. The unintended consequence: often we create complications, tangle the threads, or even erect roadblocks that delay the true, God-ordained unfolding of the promise. We add our frantic splashing to the ocean of His power, forgetting that the author doesn't need an editor for the climactic chapters of our lives. He is looking not for our ability to fix things, but for our availability to follow. He calls us to partner with His timing, to walk in His rhythm, not to try and dictate the tempo of the universe from our anxious little corner. Have you felt this surge of human capability rise within you during a season of waiting? That almost irresistible urge to force an outcome, to make something happen because God seems to be delaying. Pause now. Look deeply at the motivation behind that impulse. Is it arising from a quiet, settled trust in God's perfect plan, or from a gnawing desire to seize control of the narrative out of fear? Are your hands busy building your own workaround, or are they open, waiting to receive His instructions? God doesn't need your strength. He seeks your surrender. He doesn't need your frantic effort. He asks for your faithful expectancy. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is simply stand still and trust that He is working in the silence you cannot see. The clock ticks loudly in the quiet room, a relentless reminder of time passing, of things undone, of the world still spinning while you feel stuck. Our culture pulses with the energy of production, of measurable progress, of constant forward motion. To stop feels like failure. To wait feels like wasted precious moments that could be used for doing. You feel the internal hum of anxiety, the pressure to fill every silence with activity, every pause with planning. You've built your life on a foundation of striving, believing that your effort is the engine that drives change, that your hustle is the key that unlocks doors. And waiting? Waiting feels like the engine has stalled, like the key is lost, leaving you stranded on the side of the road while everyone else speeds past. This is the rhythm the world teaches. Do, do, do. But the rhythm God invites you into is different, profoundly countercultural, and deeply healing. He calls you to rest, not the shallow rest of collapsing after exhaustion, but the profound, soul-deep rest of ceasing. Ceasing from your striving, ceasing from your need to control the outcome, ceasing from the belief that it all depends on you. Be still, He whispers from Psalm 46, verse 10, and know that I am God. The waiting you currently endure, the season you feel trapped in, isn't passive idleness in God's economy. It's an enforced Sabbath for your striving soul. It is a holy pause, a divine interruption designed to compel you to let go of the oars and trust the current of His grace. You are called to be known, not just to do great things. This stillness isn't lazy. It is a posture of active surrender, a profound act of trust in the One who holds all things together. It's finding peace not in the certainty that your problem will resolve exactly how you want it to, or even when, but in the unshakable presence of the God who is with you in the uncertainty. He is the peace itself. In this waiting, the goal is not to white-knuckle your way through, but to learn a new way of breathing, a new way of being. It's where you discover that nourishment comes not from constant activity, but from quiet communion. It's in the gentle lull of surrender that you find refreshment for your weary spirit in His unforced rhythms of grace. The world's noise fades when you stop adding to it. In the quiet rest, when your hands are empty of striving, they are open to receive. It is often in this space of stillness that His still, small voice, often drowned out by the clamor of our own efforts and fears, becomes audible. What rhythms of rest, however small, can you intentionally weave into the fabric of your days right now? How can you choose to cease striving, even for just a few minutes, and simply be present with the God who is always present with you? This season of waiting is not an interruption to your life. It is an invitation into a deeper life rooted in His rest. You stand at the window, watching the rain fall, each drop a tiny, echoing reminder of the waiting. It's a season that feels long, perhaps longer than any you've known. You've poured out your heart in prayer, perhaps even laid out your plans, your hopes, your deepest longings before the Lord. And then, the silence. The world outside continues its rhythm, rushing past like a swift river, while you feel anchored in a still pool, seemingly bypassed by life's flow. This waiting feels like an absence, a void where expected music should be playing, but instead there is only a deafening quiet. Doubt whispers like the wind through bare branches, asking if you've been forgotten, if your faith was misplaced, if this emptiness is simply emptiness. But consider the pause in music. It isn't the absence of sound for no reason. A skilled composer knows that the silence is just as crucial as the notes themselves. That intentional space gives shape, structure, and emotional weight to everything that surrounds it. Without the pause, no, this time is part of the journey. It is a deliberate space designed by the master composer. This season can be an unparalleled opportunity to deepen your intimacy with him. When the noise of activity and the rush of progress fade, his whisper becomes audible in the stillness. Like a weary traveler finally resting by the quiet waters, your soul can be restored, not through outward striving, but through inward communion. He isn't asking you to do more. He's inviting you to be more, present with him, rooted in his love. In this pause, hidden strengths you never knew you possessed can begin to surface. Perhaps you feel weak, vulnerable, exposed by the inactivity. But just as a seed germinates in the dark hidden soil, your resilience, your patience, your quiet trust can be cultivated in this unseen season. The wilderness wasn't just a barren test for the Israelites. It was a schoolroom where they learned dependency on divine provision, discovered Moses' leadership, and were shaped into a nation. Your wilderness pause might be revealing areas of character God wants to strengthen, skills he wants to develop away from the spotlight, preparing you for a harvest you cannot yet see. You might feel pruned, losing leaves and branches, but the gardener is preparing the vine for more abundant fruit. This time also opens doors to serve others in ways you might not have had the capacity for otherwise. When your own path forward is unclear, you gain a unique empathy for others walking through their own seasons of uncertainty. Looking outward, investing in relationships, offering comfort from the well of your own journey. These acts of love are not secondary activities. They are central to the divine composition. God might be positioning you to be an unexpected source of light in someone else's darkness, a beacon of hope, precisely because you understand the shadows of waiting. Moreover, this pause is a profound invitation to learn contentment in the present moment, regardless of the future's unfolding. Anxiety fixates on what isn't here yet, what might go wrong, what is missing. Contentment finds peace in the presence of God now, in the simple gifts He has already given. It's about cultivating gratitude for what you do have, the breath in your lungs, the love of a friend, a roof over your head, the quiet assurance of His presence. Rather than focusing solely on what you lack. This paradox of finding fullness in perceived emptiness, joy in the midst of waiting, is a powerful testimony to the grace that sustains us. Look around you with new eyes. Are there relationships God is highlighting, prompting you to invest deeper, to listen more, to simply be present? Is there a hidden talent or interest you've neglected, a skill God is nudging you to develop during this unexpected downtime? Is there an area of your character, perhaps patience, humility, or perseverance, that this very season is designed to refine, chipping away at the rough edges? This waiting season is not a void, not a suspension of life, but a canvas upon which God is painting unexpected beauty, resilience, and growth. What opportunities for purpose and growth might God be offering you within this season of waiting? He is the artist, and He works in the stillness as much as in the storm. Trust the brushstrokes, even when the picture isn't yet complete. You sit in the quiet ache of waiting, feeling the wind whip around you, not outside, but within. This season stretches out like an endless ocean, waves of uncertainty crashing against the shore of your hope. It's easy to feel adrift, tossed by the circumstance, lost in the sheer scale of what you cannot control. Remember the story of Peter on the Sea of Galilee. Jesus calls out across the storm, his voice a steady beacon in the chaos. "Come," and Peter, with a burst of faith that defies logic, steps out of the boat. For a few breathtaking steps, he walks on water. He walks on the impossible, sustained by a gaze fixed solely on the one who called him. The storm rages, the wind howls, the waves rise, but his eyes are on Jesus. Then something shifts. His focus wavers. He sees the magnitude of the storm, the impossible height of the waves, the sheer violence of the wind. He looks at the chaos instead of at the Christ, and immediately he begins to sink. The water that held him now threatens to swallow him whole. Isn't waiting often exactly like this? You step out in faith. Maybe it's just holding on. Maybe it's taking a small step toward a promise. But the storm of your situation surrounds you. The future feels uncertain. The circumstances feel overwhelming. And it becomes incredibly easy to fixate on the waves, the mounting bills, the discouraging diagnosis, the strained relationship, the unanswered questions. You look at the size of the problem, and you begin to sink into anxiety, doubt, despair. Your stability in this season of waiting isn't dependent on the calmness of the waters. It's anchored by the steadfastness of your gaze upon Jesus. He is the anchor for your soul, firm and secure, holding you fast even when everything else feels unstable. Hebrews 6:19. He is the Prince of Peace, capable of calming any storm, inner or outer. He is the author and perfecter of your faith, Hebrews 12:2, the one who not only begins the good work in you, but promises to carry it to completion. When you feel yourself sinking, when the weight of waiting threatens to pull you under, consciously, intentionally shift your focus back to Him. It's a spiritual discipline, a practice of redirecting your internal gaze. Look at His character, His faithfulness, His love, His power. Look at His promises. Every single one is a life raft in the storm. Look at His finished work on the cross, the ultimate demonstration that He is able to overcome anything. Where are your eyes fixed in this season of waiting? Are they on the tumultuous waves of your circumstances, or on the steady, unwavering presence of the one who walks on the waves? Practice this sacred act of redirection. Whenever doubt whispers or fear grits your heart, whenever the sheer impossibility of your situation screams for your attention, deliberately, gently, firmly, direct your gaze back to Jesus. He is the one who calls you to walk with Him even through the storm. He is the one who will not let you sink when you reach out to Him. He may not quiet the storm immediately, but He will quiet the fear within you as you keep your eyes fixed on Him. The calendar page turns again, marked with silence that feels heavy, almost suffocating. You look at the unanswered prayer like a faded map in a forgotten drawer. The closed door, a stark wall you cannot pass. The path ahead seemingly dissolving into a barren wilderness. Doubt, the serpent in the garden of your hope, whispers its ancient questions. Does God even see this struggle? Does He care about your heartache? Is He truly good? When the circumstances feel so undeniably bad, it's easy to declare God is good when the sun is shining on your life, when blessings fall like gentle rain. But what about when you're caught in the storm, battered by winds of uncertainty? when the ground beneath you feels unstable and the future is a blur seen through tear-filled eyes. Waiting, true waiting, isn't just a test of how long you can endure. It's a fiery furnace designed to refine and reveal your core beliefs about God Himself. It challenges the very foundation of your faith. You wonder, is He truly sovereign over this specific mess? This pain that feels so personal and chaotic? Is His love really unconditional when the outcome you desperately desired feels like a profound rejection? Is His faithfulness still anchored in the cosmic sea when your small boat of hope feels adrift and sinking? This is the battleground, a moment where faith becomes less about possessing the entire blueprint and more about simply holding the hand of the architect. The profound truth that anchors the soul in the tempest isn't found in dissecting the why of your struggle, though questions are natural, but in knowing the who behind it all. You might not understand His actions or His seeming inaction, but the invitation is to rest in His unwavering nature. Can you, even when confusion clouds your vision and fear grips your heart, look heavenward and whisper, "I don't see the way forward, God, and honestly, I don't understand this part of the journey. But I know You. Your word tells me You are good, utterly and completely good. You are faithful, even when I am not. Your love is relentless, pursuing me even in my doubt. And You are sovereign over all things, even the very things that make no sense to me right now. I trust that You are for me, always, working all things for my good and Your glory, even in this agonizing waiting room." Trusting His character isn't a passive resignation. It's an active choice, a quiet declaration of dependence. It's the shield that deflects the fiery darts of despair the enemy throws your way. It's the hidden wellspring in the dry desert, providing a deep, sustaining peace that surpasses human understanding. It's the ultimate act of spiritual surrender, acknowledging that you do not hold the universe in your hands, but the one who does is utterly, profoundly, and eternally trustworthy. He is the master weaver, working both the brilliant threads and the tangled knots of your life into a tapestry of stunning beauty that you will only fully see from His perspective. So, in this season of unanswered questions, of difficult waiting, of wrestling with the unknowns, what aspect of God's magnificent character calls to you most powerfully? Is it His unwavering faithfulness when everything else in your life feels unstable? Is it His sovereign control when chaos seems to reign unchecked around you? Is it His deep, lavish love when you feel abandoned or forgotten? Or is it simply His inherent, unassailable goodness? Anchor yourself there today. Meditate on that truth. Let His goodness be the solid ground beneath your weary feet. His love, the very air you breathe. His faithfulness, the steady horizon you scan. His sovereignty, the strong hand that holds you. This kind of trust isn't a naive blindness. It is faith informed by the unchanging truth of His being, a truth whispered through Scripture, echoed in the lives of saints past and present, and confirmed by the quiet persistence of hope in your own heart. It is the truth that declares, He is who He says He is, and He is truly, gloriously, miraculously enough. Welcome to today's devotional message in our Trusting God Always series. You prayed, you fasted, you waited, and still silence. The stillness presses in, a heavy blanket of unanswered questions. Did He hear? Does He care? The mountain before you seems only to grow taller with each passing day, the valley deeper. Doubt, like a quiet thief, tries to steal the last embers of your hope. Maybe you've whispered prayers late into the night, tears staining your pillow, feeling utterly unseen, unheard, and perhaps forgotten. This journey of faith, they tell you, is one of trust. But how do you trust when the path disappears into the mist, when the promises feel distant echoes, and the immediate reality is pain or perplexity? It's in these moments, isn't it, that the very foundation of your faith feels tested, shaken, fragile. You look around and see others whose prayers seem answered with miraculous speed, whose paths seem straight and clear, and the comparison is a bitter pill. Why them, God? Why not me? Or perhaps it's not a dramatic crisis, but a slow, persistent ache, a dream deferred, a quiet loneliness, a struggle that just won't end. You keep putting one foot in front of the other, reciting scriptures like a lifeline, attending church, trying to believe, but the light feels dim. If these words meet you right where you are, if the weight of the unseen feels heavy, if the silence of heaven feels deafening, then perhaps this message is the sign you didn't know you needed. It's a whisper in the wilderness, a gentle reminder that you are not walking alone, and the God who sees in secret is working even when you can't perceive His hand. This space is for breathing deeply into God's truth, for allowing His presence to anchor your weary soul. It's a place where we acknowledge the raw, honest struggles of living by faith in a world that demands proof and instant results. Here, we open our hearts to the ancient promises that have sustained saints through millennia, promises that speak of a God who is faithful, who is near, and who is always, always working for your good. Let's lean into the assurance that even when the storm rages and the boat feels like it's sinking, the Master is in the vessel with you. He is not asleep. He is not indifferent. He is meticulously weaving together the threads of your life, even the tangled ones, into a tapestry of grace and glory. If these words meet you right where you are, like, share, and subscribe. It helps us reach more souls who need God's comfort, who are wrestling with the same questions, who long to feel seen and understood in their faith journey. Join this community of fellow sojourners, lifting each other up, reminding each other of the unwavering faithfulness of our God. Comment below with your favorite Bible promise, or the one you're still holding on to in the waiting. Share the scripture that is your anchor when the waves of doubt crash against your heart. Let's build a chorus of hope in the comments. Let's begin, and let His word breathe new life into yours. You sit in the silence, wondering if your prayer was even heard. The wind taps the window, like God's whisper waiting for your stillness. It feels like nothing is happening. You've laid your heart bare, poured out your deepest longings, pleaded for intervention, for a sign, for anything. But the scene before you remains unchanged. The situation you're desperate to see resolved lingers. The healing you crave is delayed. The answer you seek feels lost in the cosmos. It's easy, isn't it, to equate God's inactivity with His absence, to assume that because you don't see movement, He isn't moving. Think of the intricate dance happening behind the curtains just moments before a grand play begins. The audience, seated comfortably, sees only the closed velvet, hears only the murmuring anticipation. But backstage, a furious, coordinated effort is underway. Props are being meticulously set in place. Actors are getting into their starting positions, ensuring their costumes hang just right, their makeup is perfect. Lights are being adjusted, cues confirmed, the orchestra tuning softly. Every single one of these unseen actions is absolutely essential for the performance to unfold perfectly, for the story to be told with beauty and impact. The audience sees none of it, yet it is the very foundation of the magic they are about to witness. This is a powerful image of God's work in your life and the world. Just because you don't see Him doesn't mean He isn't working. He is constantly, sovereignly, and meticulously working behind the scenes. He is orchestrating circumstances you may not even be aware of, aligning events in ways you could never predict. He is preparing hearts, yours and others involved in your situation, softening them, challenging them, shaping them. He is opening doors you haven't even knocked on yet, and quietly closing others that would lead you astray. Your waiting season, the period of apparent stillness, might be the very time He is doing His most critical, unseen work. It is often in the hidden moments, the quiet pauses, the long stretches of unfulfilled expectation, that God is laying the groundwork for future breakthroughs. He might be lining up divine appointments, encounters with people who will play a crucial role later. He could be dismantling obstacles you don't even know exist, clearing the path ahead. Or perhaps He is cultivating the perfect conditions, both in your life and the external circumstances, for the very desire you've placed before Him. Like a farmer tending the soil and waiting for the right season, God is preparing the ground for growth, even when the field looks bare. This truth is a profound reminder that His power and activity are not limited by our perception. Our human sight is finite, our understanding often narrow. We see only the surface, the immediate obstacle, the present lack. But God sees the whole panorama, the beginning from the end. He is sovereignly weaving together every detail, the trials, the joys, the delays, the sudden turns, for His ultimate glory and for your ultimate good. As Ephesians 1:11 reminds us, He works all things according to the counsel of His will. All things, the seen and the unseen, the active moments and the waiting ones, the moments of clarity and the seasons of fog. Can you release your desperate need to see the blueprint, to understand the how and the when and the why? Can you surrender the frantic striving to figure it all out? It's like standing behind the stage curtain, straining to see the audience, trying to direct the show yourself before the curtain even rises. What if you could simply trust that the master weaver is creating a beautiful tapestry, even when all you see from your perspective are the tangled, confusing threads on the back? The beauty of the pattern is revealed only when the work is complete, when seen from the front. Your life is that tapestry, being woven, thread by thread, by a divine artist. Have faith, dear one, that God is actively working on your behalf, even when you can't see it. His silence is not idleness. His stillness is not indifference. It is the profound, mysterious work of a creator orchestrating a masterpiece, preparing the stage for His glory to be revealed. Release the need to understand every brushstroke. Simply trust the artist. He is working. He is always working. Slowly, gently. The narrative shifts from the frantic pace of striving to the quiet rhythm of surrender. The light softens, the edges blur, not into confusion, but into the soft focus of God's presence. The world outside, with its demands for measurable progress, its insistence on visible results, begins to fade. Here, in this quiet space, the true measure is not how much you do, but how much He is trusted. the timeless truth echoes not just in the grandeur of creation or the drama of salvation history, but in the intimate whisper of God's love for you personally. He is not a distant clockmaker, winding up the universe and stepping away. He is intimately involved, meticulously attentive, closer than your very breath. His faithfulness is not a concept to be grasped intellectually, but a reality to be lived, breathed, and leaned into, especially when the ground beneath you feels unsteady. It means walking not by the fleeting evidence of your senses, but by the sure and steady light of His character and His promises. To walk in trust, not sight, is to embrace the profound mystery of God's ways. It is to understand that His hiddenness is not abandonment, but often preparation. It is to believe that the unseen work He is doing behind the scenes in your life is just as vital, perhaps even more vital, than the visible changes you crave. It is in the wilderness moments, the silent nights, the valleys of waiting, that He carves character, refines motives, deepens dependence, and positions you for the very blessings you seek. These hidden seasons are not wasted time. They are holy stories in the making. The barren land is where God prepares the soil for abundance. The quiet night is when the stars are most visible. The waiting room is where patience is forged and hope is purified. Every moment, even the ones that feel empty or frustrating, is being woven into the larger narrative of His grace in your life. He turns your periods of unseen struggle into testaments of His sustaining power, your moments of quiet faith into chapters of profound growth. The story is not over just because the current scene is still. The author is still writing. They didn't see the end, but they trusted the author, and that was enough. The days stretch long like a forgotten highway. The silence answers nothing, and your weary shoulders bear the weight of unanswered questions, delayed hopes, persistent struggles. You sit there, perhaps by the window, watching the world move on, while you feel stuck, tethered to a season of waiting you didn't choose. The natural inclination is weariness, frustration, perhaps even a quiet despair. Where is the joy in this? Where is the lightness when the load feels so heavy? It feels impossible to conjure happiness when the heart aches, when the future remains a fog, when the present demands relentless endurance. Yet the ancient words whisper a different truth, a challenging paradox. Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds. James writes, James 1:2. Joy? In trials? It seems counterintuitive, almost cruel. But this isn't a call for forced smiles or pretending the pain isn't real. This is a profound spiritual insight into a joy that exists beneath the surface of circumstance, a joy rooted not in what happens to you, but in what God is doing in you and through you. It's the quiet strength spoken of in Nehemiah. The joy of the Lord is your strength, Nehemiah 8:10. This joy isn't the fleeting happiness of good fortune. It is the abiding power that enables you to stand, to endure, to continue putting one foot in front of the other, even when the path is steep and shadowed. This deep-seated joy comes from knowing, truly knowing in your spirit, that God is in control. Even when chaos surrounds you, even when your plans crumble, even when the waiting feels endless, He is sovereign. He is not absent. He is present, meticulously weaving His purposes into the fabric of your life. The trials, the delays, the endurance, they are not wasted. James continues explaining why we can count it joy. For you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness, and let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. James 1:3-4. The waiting, the enduring, the pressing through, this is the fertile ground where perseverance, character, and hope are cultivated. It is a refining fire that burns away the dross, revealing the pure gold of who God created you to be. It is in the wilderness that the roots grow deep, preparing you for seasons of fruitfulness you cannot yet imagine. This joy is the quiet satisfaction of choosing faith over fear, day after day. It's the internal victory won in the secret place of your heart when you decide to lean into dependence on God rather than crumble under the weight of self-reliance. It is found in the glimpses of His faithfulness you begin to see, even in the delay, a small provision, an unexpected word of encouragement, a moment of peace that defies explanation. These are not just random occurrences. They are God's quiet nods, His reminders that He sees you, He knows, and He is with you. Like trimming the wick of an oil lamp in the dark, these small acts of recognizing His grace keep the light of hope burning. This endurance-born joy is intrinsically linked to the fruit of the Spirit, cultivated through patience. It is that peace that surpasses all understanding, Philippians 4:7, standing guard like a sentinel over your heart and mind in Christ Jesus. It is the inexplicable calm in the storm, the steady hand on the tiller when the waves crash over the bow. As you endure, you discover a strength you didn't know you possessed, a resilience forged not in comfort, but in the very fires of affliction. You gain by losing control. You find rest by pressing on in faith. This process deepens your capacity for gratitude, shifting your focus from what you lack to the mercies that are new every morning. You learn a peace that is not dependent on external circumstances, but is an internal state of being, anchored in the unshakable nature of God Himself. What small mercies can you find today, even amidst the waiting? Look for them. Practice gratitude for the smallest flicker of light. Lean into the strength that comes not from within yourself, but from knowing God is with you, refining you through it all, cultivating a joy that the world cannot give and cannot take away. This enduring joy is your inheritance, a treasure hidden within the trial, waiting to be discovered as you trust Him through it all. You sit in the quiet, the echoes of the journey still whispering in your soul. You've wrestled with the calendar pages, each blank day a question mark against the promises you hold dear. The silence felt vast, sometimes heavy, a cloak you didn't ask for. You navigated the urge to take matters into your own hands, to force doors open that God intended to keep closed for a season. Perhaps you felt the fire, not of destruction, but of a divine heat designed to purify, to strengthen, to make you ready for the weight of the blessing. And through it all, one truth stood unshakable. God did not, could not, would not leave. He was the quiet anchor in the storm you felt swirling within and around you. You couldn't always see the rope, couldn't always feel the seabed, but the ship didn't drift away. He was the unseen root beneath the soil of your life, feeding you strength when the leaves above seemed withered, preparing for a bloom you couldn't yet imagine. He was the patient refiner by the fire, turning up the heat just enough to melt away the dross, to reveal the gold beneath. This wasn't neglect. It was intentional, powerful proximity. His faithfulness wasn't waiting for your faith to be perfect. or for your understanding to be complete. It's an attribute as constant as gravity, as foundational as His love. He is faithful yesterday, today, and forever. The waiting wasn't a sign that you were forgotten, left behind in some divine filing cabinet. No, it was often a testament to His intricate, perfect timing, His deep desire to prepare you for the blessing and to work in you through the process. The delay was not a denial. It was a divine appointment you didn't recognize. You were not, and never were, defined by the duration of your wait, but by the steadfastness of the one you were waiting on. His promises aren't fragile whispers. They are solid, enduring truths. His love isn't a flickering candle. It is an unwavering, all-consuming fire. His plan isn't a hesitant maybe. It is unfolding exactly as it should, with precision and purpose, even when your eyes cannot perceive the masterpiece being woven. There's a profound freedom in releasing the frantic need to control every variable, to understand every twist and turn. You are invited to rest in the profound truth that you are utterly seen, deeply loved, and held securely in hands that shaped the cosmos. The silence you perceived wasn't empty. It was often filled with the quiet hum of His creative work, the gentle whisper of His presence guiding you, the eternal song of His faithfulness singing over you. It's a melody of assurance, of belonging, of being utterly cared for. Find peace in knowing He orchestrates the seasons, strength in feeling His nearness even when He's quiet, and an unbreakable hope in the unwavering promise found in His word. He who called you is faithful, and He will do it. Trust the unseen hands shaping your story. They didn't see the end, but they trusted the author, and that was enough.